Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome. MLB and WNBA DFS Pre-Lock Live. Pete Cole here with Walt Waddell. Walter's going to be on after me. I'm going to do MLB first, and then Walter's going to come on and discuss today's two-game WNBA slate, which starts at 1 p.m. So, first of all, for anybody new watching, yourfielderschoice.com, $35 a month for 6 months. That includes all sports. We cover everything. If FanDuel or DraftKings cover it, we cover it. Our specialty is small sports, the niche sports, but of course, MLB is our flagship. Walter is our niche sport guy who's coming after me, especially he's covering WNBA. We got TBT coming up soon, TBT basketball. So if any of you guys are into like college hoops, small sports basketball, definitely hook up with us for there. He'll have all kinds of content coming up for that soon. We crushed last year on that, most definitely. I remember last year that was a big deal in July because we didn't have much other sports going on. So that was a pretty cool week we had. Also, we're doing Aussie football. There's also, I think, WNBA showdown late tonight, right? I think at Minnesota Phoenix. Euro soccer is today. Adam's going to be having content out for that very shortly. I just saw NASCAR today. Coming up is Xfinity, the Henry's 180, coming up earlier, and I think like within an hour. Eric Big E is going to have content on that. Also NASCAR tomorrow. The Jockey Made in America 250, I believe it is. That tomorrow he'll have content for that. All Eric's esports, CSGO. I see he's crushing in the winning lineup room. I'm seeing a bunch of winning lineups for that. So there's a lot going on this weekend, especially with the small sports. But it starts off with MLB. Two slates today. We have a 4:05 slate, 6 games. 7:15 slate is the main slate. That's 7 games. I'm going to hit the main slate. I will have a top plays out though for the 4:05 slate in a couple hours. So we'll have both slates covered for you. Everything will be covered, all good content. So let's take right off and look at MLB. First of all, weather today for the main slate. I don't see much going on. The only thing I do see is a little bit of rain in Colorado for that St. Louis, Colorado game. It's a Coors weekend. Coors has not been nice to us so far. It's been chalky the last 2 nights, and pretty much the Cardinals haven't come through, but we should be expecting that because the Cardinals are not a good offensive team. Yet they're very high owned, a lot of chalk, and I got a feeling, the one day everybody fades them, they're going to go off this weekend. So, Coors is part of the slate tonight. It's a weird slate. Not that many great pitching, but we're going to have a lot of offense, a lot of big bats. There's a bunch of pitchers today that could very easily get crushed. We got several pitchers with over 400 Wnba, over 400 Wnba, 4.50 plus Sierra. So I think it's going to be a lot of fireworks today in the night slate. All right, so not much weather. Vegas tonight. Of course, the highest implied is going to be that Coors game. We have Colorado 6.2 and St. Louis at 6. It's kind of rare you see 2 teams above 6 runs, but that's what we're going to get today because we have 2 gas can pitchers going in that Coors game, which we'll talk about when we get to starting lineups. But beside that, we have what else we got? We got the Angels at 5.7 against Baltimore and Pablo Lopez. Houston 5.6 implied against Cleveland, and that's going up against Eli Morgan of Cleveland, another kid that's really struggled, high ERA. Giants 5.4 implied, Dodgers 5.3 implied, A's 5.1 implied, and even Seattle a 5.0 implied. So like I said before, I think there's going to be a lot of runs scored tonight. There's only really like one decent pitcher that we're looking at for cash, and everything else is going to be kind of a take a risk, and hopefully you pick the right pitcher. So that's Vegas. Going right then into pitching. Our cheat sheet actually is up for the main slate. And of course, it'll be updated as the day goes on, but the first update is up. And if you are a premium member, check it out. If you're watching on demand later on the day, you're going to see that we have 2 pitchers today on the main slate. Right now, we have projected over 40% ownership. And Actually, Marco Gonzalez for Seattle is projected right now to be higher owned than Clayton Kershaw. Do I agree with that? No, but let's look at both of them. I mean, of course, we got Kershaw. I think Kershaw is the top SP to slate in cash. We got to use him because we do not have a lot of great pitching. I mean, to me, it's Kershaw and everybody else tonight. He's coming off a dominant performance against the Cubs. His last time out, he had 13 strikeouts across 7 and 2/3 innings. That was Sunday Night Baseball, I believe, last week. And that was kind of a revenge game after he got stomped in Wrigley during that day game in May. It was like a Thursday afternoon, I believe. But he said 13 strikeouts across 7 and 2/3. He had CSW 44.6 in that game. Now he's gone over 100 pitches in 2 of his last 3 starts, which is huge for DFS. And the Dodgers right now are massive home favorites, minus 242. That's actually jumped from early opening line of 165 against Washington. Wow, so that's really jumped. The lineups aren't even out yet, so unless I missed something here against Washington, but huge favorites. So Kershaw is your SP1. Now, if we want to go projection wise and go with the masses right now, it's looking like Marco Gonzalez is the favorite for SP2. I've always been a Gonzalez guy. I mean, I've always liked him as a pitcher. He's 7,700 tonight, going up against Texas. I don't know. I mean, he's going up against Joey Gallo, who's been hot, and we know Joey can smack him around a little bit. But it's true, I guess Gonzalez is a much better pitcher at home. His career ERA is almost 1 point lower at home. Even this year, it's even better. He's got a 3.81 ERA at home compared to 6.98 road ERA. So Gonzalez definitely a better pitcher in Seattle. The biggest problem with Marco is we don't get the strikeouts. He's not a big K pitcher, never has been. Probably more of a better real life pitcher, but he is going up against the Rangers, and the Rangers do strike out 25.6% against lefties. So there is decent potential here for a good game for Marco, and I do see why I guess some of the ownership is leaning that way. The only thing that bothers me, though, is got that 431 xWOB allowed. It's pretty high, but he is a home favorite. He's a minus 142 home favorite against Texas, and Texas does have, they're ranked 24th in team WOB at 300. So, yeah, I can see why Marco was, yes, in the popular SP2. Definitely don't have to go there. There's a couple other pitchers that we can look at. Alex Cobb, I don't mind, he has now opened up as a minus 206 favorite against Baltimore. I don't understand why DraftKings has actually raised Alex Cobb's salary. I'm a big Cobb fan. I've been for a long time. I think he's got the talent. And I don't understand, though, his salary went from an 8-5 against Tampa, where in that revenge game where he got stomped, he ended up -1, and now he's up to a 9-4. So his salary actually jumped up for almost $1,000. That's weird. But Cobb's definitely in play. Even though he did have that dud against Tampa, he does. I think he probably has the second highest strikeout potential on the slate. Even though he got drugged by Tampa, he had 3 Ks. The game before that, Detroit, he had 8. He had 6 Ks against Seattle, 8 Ks against Oakland, 8 against Tampa in an earlier game at home. So I think Cobb probably has the second highest potential to score on the slate. The problem is you're going to pay up for 9-4. And when he's 9-4 and Kershaw is, not much different. Kershaw is 10. He's only $600 difference. If you're going to use both of them, you're going to spend some money. Jake Odorizzi is also in play, 8-6. The problem is with Odorizzi, he doesn't go deep into games. He is a decent favorite today against Cleveland. But that's probably it. I mean, we used Odorizzi one game last week, and he ended up lasting, I think, was 5 innings against Detroit. He got a 16 DK. That's probably all you expect out of him. But when you're paying A6, you expect more. He did have the one good game against Baltimore where he had 32 DK points. But beside that, pretty much every game has been around 13, 14, 15 DK points. He's going up against Cleveland, 23% K rate against righties, which is so-so. It's not horrible. It's not great. They do have a low OBP, 297, 232 batting average against righties. So I guess Odorizzi is in play. Strikeout percentage is lower than Cobb at 27.3%, but I get if anything, I'm leaning Cobb against the Orioles. I mean, that offense right now, 304 team Wnba is not that great against a guy like Cobb. So to me, I'm probably going to rank him Kershaw, Cobb, maybe Marco, and then Odorizzi. Anybody else tonight? Possibly Cole Irvin. I mean, he's coming off actually a decent game against the Giants. He's 7-9, so I guess he's in play. He had 34 DK points against the Giants. He pitched 8 innings in that game. He had 8 strikeouts, 33% CSW, which is elite. And this is coming from a guy who's got a career 17.3% K rate. So if anything, GPP only, but I guess he isn't play against Boston for GPPs because we got to run somebody beside Kershaw tonight, GPPs. There is one kid here, the kid for Arizona. I may take a chance on GPPs. This kid, Jacob Faria, he's only 6'6". He actually came back and actually earned another start tonight. He made his first start of the year on Monday. He allowed 1 run, 3 hits, no walks, struck out 3 in 4 innings against the Cardinals. He's only pitched 8 innings across 4 appearances this year, 3 starts, 3.38 ERA, 0.88 WHIP, which is pretty good. So he's getting another turn rotation tonight after that decent start. That's going up against the Giants, and might not be too bad. The Giants are striking out at 25.7% K rate against righties. That's Faria. I wouldn't expect him to go that deep, but hey. At 6'6", if we can get 12, 15 DK points out of him, that's all we expect. And we can possibly get that depending what the Giants lineup looks like. So I may end up going there and get a couple of GBPs if you're multi-entering. Beside that, though, we're not playing any pitchers in cores. We got Wade LeBlanc going for St. Louis. You got Kyle Freeland to get for Colorado. Both gas cans. Both trash, really. Maybe Sammy Long tonight. For the Giants, that same game with the Diamondbacks, he is a road favorite. He's 8-1, minus 166 favorite against Faria and the Diamondbacks. I mean, Diamondbacks are missing guys like Ketel Marte. Long has shown some strikeout ability, especially in the minors. He's got real impressive strikeout ability in the minors. So, but small sample size. If you're using them, probably pretty much using them because, of attrition, because it's a really bad pitching slate. But one thing actually I just noticed about Sammy Long, he threw 91 pitches his last game out, which actually is pretty damn good. So Long's in play also for GBP. Even that whole game against Faria and Long, you can use GBPs. That's pretty much it. I wouldn't be touching Jorge Lopez for Baltimore. I'd definitely not touch Eli Morgan for Cleveland, who I think Houston's going to bat around. He's got like a 9.37 ERA. Garrett Richards for Boston is total trash. He just turned into a horrible pitcher this year. His last game was 2 DK points, before that -9. And the game before that he had 1. The game before that he had 2. So Garrett Richards is, understand why he's still in the starting lineup, in the starting rotation, but he is for Boston. Too bad Boston didn't have any pitchers. So, like I said, there's a lot of ways we can go tonight for hitting because we do have some bad pitchers going tonight. With guys like I said, Lopez, Espino for the Nationals, LeBlanc, Freeland for Colorado, all these guys. So many ways to go. All right, so just to summarize pitching, Kershaw is our number 1. I would say number 2, I'm either going to run Marco or possibly my man Alex Cobb, and hopefully Cobb has a good game against Baltimore. GBPs, it's wide open. All right, so that's pitching for tonight. Like I said, our cheat sheet is updated. It's out. It's obviously going to change as day goes on. The lineups come out, but we can go through it quick as we go around the horn here. First, starting with catching tonight. I'm looking at our projections on DK. The highest projected catcher right now is Yadi Molina at 25% projections. Beside that, we have Buster Posey, 19, Jason Castro, 18. So you're probably going to actually, well, not sure. If you use Cobb and Kershaw, you may not. You're paying over 20 grand in pitching. But I guess Molina would be the play if you have the money. He's actually crushing lefties this year. Really good on that positive platoon against lefties. 353 ISO elite, 438 Wnba elite, 324 batting average. I mean, that's close to elite. And you got Freeland on the other hand, who's giving up 247 ISO, 423 Wnba, 344 batting average. So this is all lining up for a home run for Molina right now. Freeland's giving up a home run every .058 plate appearance. So is Molina a home run hitter? No. He just let one loose in Coors, though. Was it last night? I think it was. Yeah, yesterday. So hitting 320 over the last week. So Molina's in play. Elias Diaz for Colorado. He's obviously in play again. This kid's on fire, going against LeBlanc for St. Louis. And he's 4,400. He's actually $100 more than Molina. 5 of his 6 home runs this season have been the last 10 games. He's got now home runs in 4 straight. So 4 straight of his games he's played. He's also 8 for 14 with 2 doubles, 4 homers, and 6 RBIs in the series. So Diaz is in play if he gets a start tonight against LeBlanc. So to me, it's either Molina or Diaz. Anybody else? Will Smith against a righty, definitely, especially in TVPs. You always want to play Smith on a reverse split. Hits righties better actually than lefties. Going up against Espino. Good spot. He's 4,000, actually cheaper than Molina and Diaz. So Smith's in a sneaky spot if he gets a start. Sean Murphy against Garrett Richards. It's reverse splits, but Murphy does have 237 ISO against righties. So Sean Murphy's in play. And then we said Buster Posey, another guy like Will Smith who actually hits righties better than lefties. Buster Posey's a righty, but he's been smoking righties this year. 217 ISO, 405 Wnba. Actually great numbers. So Posey's in play also. And he's hot. I mean, he's hitting 410 over the last week, 360 over the last month, and he's hitting 330 on the season. 12 homers, 27 ribbies. So this is kind of a renaissance year for Posey. I'm assuming he will get the start tonight. So keep that in mind. And that's probably it for catching as I see right now. Of course, we will see the as some punts pop up later on the day. Some punt catchers, we may have somebody we can kind of slide in there if we're going to use some of the Coors bats. Don Day's asking why Chi-Chi's updated Maine first before early, mainly because I needed it done for the show here. But the early will be out too, and we still got 5 hours. So, all right, so that's catching. First base, of course, Paul Goldschmidt's going to be popular, 23% in Coors. If you don't run Goldschmidt, of course, you got Shohei Ohtani. You can play first base or outfield. To me, first base is absolutely loaded tonight. I'm not even sure if I even want to go to Goldschmidt, even though he isn't a good spot in Coors. First, we got Max Muncy. I think he's in a great spot against Espino. Got the positive platoon, 278 ISO, 409 Wnba. Great spot for Muncy. Raking lefties. I mean, he's hitting 3. Yeah, he's hitting lefties. I mean, he's hitting righties even better than I thought he was. 360 over the last week, 3 homers, 9 ribbies. So Muncy's in play at 5'6". Probably going to pay for all these guys. Jared Walsh, definitely. Anytime Jared Walsh is facing a righty, he's in play. The problem is his pricing up to 5'2". Great GPP play. Ohtani, of course, in play. He's now up to 6'1", but there's a reason for that. 6 homers his last 5 games. 13 homers over his last 15 games. What's he got? 66 ribbies now in the season. So Ohtani's a top play there, first base or outfield. Anybody else? Matt Olson, of course, against Garrett Richards. I mean, Olson, 267 ISO this year against righties. Olson's definitely in play. Hit 300 over the last month with 6 homers. GPP plays the Bradley kid for Cleveland against Odorizzi. Definitely. You play Bradley against righties. Mlb Wnba, if he gets to start leading off for the Giants against Faria. 303 ISO, 408 Wnba, so I guess you can use Lamont Wade there. And then one of my sneaky plays, I think, tonight is Christian Walker for Arizona. Walker is 3,000 going against Long. He's actually come alive over the last week. He had a 407 batting average and hits the 6 of his last 7 games, and he gets a positive matchup against Long. It's pretty much it, I think, for first baseman on my side. Maybe Michael Shabis if he gets a start. If he's on top of the order against Cole Irvin. And I mentioned Jared Walsh, always in a great spot against righties. Yeah, Jesus said Muncie double-digit fantasy points, 8 of his last. Yeah, Muncie's on fire. I love Muncie in that spot tonight. The problem is when you got Ohtani sitting there, you got Goldie and Coors, I just don't know where to go. I'm going to probably end up making more than one lineup. But I love Muncie tonight. I like a lot of these Dodgers tonight against Espino. Espino just, let me see. He's not pitching horrible, but he stayed in the rotation, so at least for one more start here. So he's pitching for Fetty, but there's nothing that Muncie can't handle here. All right, that's first base. So popular play is going to be Ohtani or Goldie. At the end of the day, it's going to be Goldie, and you can use Ohtani in the outfield and cash. All right, second base. Our projections, of course, are showing right now early projections. Tommy Edman at 25% for St. Louis. On the DK side, on the FanDuel side, we're looking at Edman, Max Muncy, and Taylor all about the same, all around 18%. Honestly, I really haven't looked at Edman much, but Edman's price isn't bad at $4,500. So he's in play. I really like Jose Altuve tonight. Always in play as leadoff hitter. Since you're going up against a guy like Eli Morgan, he's averaged 17 fantasy points over his last 2 games. So I love Altuve up there, especially. His price is $5,500. That's not terrible. Same price as Muncie. Brendan Rodgers is now up to $5,000, but there's a reason. He moved to the 5 spot in the order yesterday. He may be there again today against the lefty LeBlanc. He now has hits in 3 straight, slashing 290, 374, 486. So, and especially against lefties, this is really Rodgers hitting. Crushing lefties, actually. 379 ISO, 477 Wnba, 345 batting average. Brendan Rodgers is hitting lefties a lot better than I even realized he is. Over the last week, he's hitting 400, and even over the last month now, the kid's hitting 330 with 5 homers and 17 RBIs. So, Brendan Rodgers is definitely in play tonight. Definitely. Anybody mid-range? Kiki, if he's leading off tonight for Boston, he sits safely now, 5 of his last 6. In that span, he's hitting 364 with 3 homers and 6 ribbies. So Kiki's in play. A couple lower price guys. I like Nick Solak tonight. Going up against Marco. If you're not playing Marco in cash, no problem going Nicky Solak, the right-hander, against the lefty Gonzalez. He's hitting 303 against lefties. Solak's in play. Jed Lowry's in play for Oakland. He's finally shown signs of life again. He's hitting 323, a couple home runs over the last 10 games. And Garrett Richards hasn't given up less than 4 runs in a game in over a month. So Jed Lowry's in play. Anybody I'm missing for GPPs? Let me see. Yeah, here's another name. It's this kid for Baltimore, Ramon Urias. Actually, I think he's not a bad player. He's playing now because Freddie Galvis is hurt. He went 2 for 3 the other night with 2 walks, 2-run home run. That was Tuesday night's game. He's now gone twice. He's now guarding yard twice now. In his last 4 or 5 games. So, but if you look at Urias' numbers, it's a very small sample size. But it's almost 50 at bats. He's actually hitting righties on a reverse split. 264 ISO, 422 Wnba, 317 batting average. So if Urias gets a start tonight against Alex Cobb, you're not using Cobb in cash, you can go Urias at second or shortstop at 2,900. Sneaky play there. Nobody else really is, I think, we did mention Tommy Edman. He does have some power. He does have that speed, hitting a little bit better, especially now the last 2 games. Now, I guess he is waking up now. The last 2 games, he had a ribby stolen base yesterday in Coors. On the day before that, he had triple. So he is, so I guess you got to put him in play at 4,500. I'm not an Edman guy, but I guess you do have to put him in play at 4,500 against Freeland. Edman's a switch hitter. Hit 317 against lefties, and Freeland is just getting crushed by the right-handed side. So at the end of the day, I guess Edman at that price is probably the top play at second. Then probably Brendan Rodgers, then Altuve, and then Kiki, or you want to go somebody cheap like Nicky Solak for Texas. I think that's pretty much it for second. Anybody else is more GPP type play. Let's go around now to third base. The big question at third base tonight is going to be, first of all, is J Ram. J Ram actually didn't play last night. They said he would be available to pinch hit. So if J Ram plays, I think J Ram's in a good spot against Houston. He's got 3 career homers against Odorizzi and only 23 at bats. He's hitting 37 points higher at home than on the road. And the thing is, Odorizzi hasn't been going deep, like we said earlier. So he gets into that Houston bullpen. Ramirez could do some damage. So definitely home run call, possibly for J Ram tonight if he gets a start. Anybody else? Of course, Nolan Arenado. Is he finally going to wake up in Coors? The game is coming. It's got to. I mean, disappointing the first 2 games, but now he gets to face a lefty again tonight in Coors. He's crushed lefties his whole career in Coors. 994 OPS, 144 WRC plus in his career. So it is a smash spot for Arenado. When is he gonna wake up and hit here? He's popular every night. You do got to put him in play again, especially the way he's even hitting lefties this year. Anthony Rendon for the Angels in play. I think Rendon's in a good spot. He's got at least 8 or more fantasy points in 5 of his last 6. Hit 370 over the last week. So all 3 of those guys, Rendon, Arenado, J Ram, are all in play at third base. The ownership on our projections right now, of course, are Arenado at 20%. FanDuel, actually, we're looking at Justin Turner 26% and Flores 20%. And I do like Wilmer Flores tonight, actually, especially with GPPs. Flores actually was scorching in June. Slash 301, 342, 534, 12 run score, 9 ribbies, and he is in a good spot against Faria tonight. So Flores is in play, mid-range. Kyle Seager's in play. He's now up to 48 ribbies on the season. He's on pace for his 3rd year of 90 ribbies. So I guess Seager definitely is in play. Beside that, though, I mean, Matt Chapman going up against a righty. Nah, not really. Said maybe Turner, but he's going up against a righty. Ryan McMahon, but McMahon, I'd rather see McMahon against a righty. LeBlanc's a lefty. So to me, it's the big 3 there: J Ram, Arenado, or Rendon for third. Not the backtrack, but there's one name I forgot to mention at first base, who I think is going to be popular, is CJ Cron. Cron is like this kid Fuentes for Colorado. He's had 11 homers this year. 9 of them are home at Coors. He's got 32 ribbies. 27 are at home at Coors. So obviously, don't sleep on CJ Cron tonight at first base going against LeBlanc. I glossed right over that name. All right, so once again, we're talking cash. Third base, J Ram, Rendon, or Arenado. Arenado's probably going to popular play because it's the revenge game, and it's going up against in Coors. All right, shortstop. The top play is going to be, projection-wise, either Paul DeJong looks like or Trevor Story. Pay up is Trevor Story, obviously. I think Story is one of the best spots of the slate tonight. But the thing is, we got to pay for him. He's not going to be cheap. He's over 6K, right? Yeah, he's 6'2". So if you can get to him, I think he's in an elite game tonight against Wade LeBlanc. Story's made his whole career out of hitting lefties in Coors. And LeBlanc said is allowing 267 ISO, 432 Wnba, and a 356 batting average for righty bats. This is all set up for Trevor Story for like 2 home runs tonight. If you can't get the Story, the other popular play, of course, is going to be Paul DeJong for St. Louis. His price still hasn't moved. It's still like around 3-4. And he's actually Paul DeJong starting to hit now. So he's got the positive platoon against Freeland. Hitting 330 over the last week now. 2 homers and 5 ribbies. So DeJong is going to be popular one play. If I can get the Trevor Story, I'm going Story. If not, I guess it's going to have to be DeJong. Brandon Crawford's in a good spot for San Francisco against Faria. He's got 17 homers on the year. He's only 4 short of his career high of 21. Gets a positive platoon against Faria. Of course, Carlos Correa against Eli Morgan tonight. Morgan's got a 9.37 ERA this year. Correa's got decent reverse splits, 264 ISO, 398 Wnba. So Correa, of course, is in play. I mean, he always is. He's 5'3", though. Anybody else? I think a cheap play I like tonight is J.P. Crawford for Seattle at 3,700, going up against Jordan Lyles. We all know Lyles is a gas can. Crawford's a left-handed hitter. He's now has hits in every game but one going back to June 4th, I see. And he's been on base every game in all of those, and he's got 7 hits in his last 3 games. So J.P. Crawford at 3,700, I think, is my sneaky play at shortstop tonight. Unless something else pops up. Mlb Wnba going up against a lefty. Anytime Mlb Wnba is going up against a lefty, I like to play him. So he's in play for Arizona, going up against Long. 274 Wnba. And Josh Rojas is also always in play. Rojas may be leading off. He's going up against a lefty. It's lefty on lefty. But Rojas has got 239 ISO against lefties this year. So Rojas can be in play also leading off. All right. Milroy decides to be miscatcher who's the punt spot. It's probably going to be Castro. We got to wait till the lineups come out, though, see if anybody else is. But right now, it's probably Castro at that cheap price. Usually, we may find a cheap catcher that's starting that we don't know about. But right now, it would be Castro or possibly Austin Hedges for Cleveland against Odorizzi. Yeah, maybe Austin Hedges or maybe Hine for Texas against Gonzalez. But it's going to be Castro probably. It's going to be the popular one against Eli Morgan. All right, so that's shortstop. Once again, in terms of this Coors game, we got a lot of chalk to talk about. This is why I hate playing these Coors slates, but not much we can do about it. Outfield. Right now, our projections for ownership, of course, is going to be a lot of the St. Louis guys. Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, Tommy Edman, all 3 of them. Even Harrison Bader, who let one loose last night. Bader's only 3,300. I wouldn't mind playing him. Our projections right now, DK, are showing Cody Bellinger as the highest owned. Bellinger's down to 3.7 for the Dodgers. He's up there over 20%, and so is Ohtani. So, the guys I like pay up, of course, Ohtani. If you don't play him at first base, you need Ohtani in your lineup somewhere. I also like JD Martinez tonight for Boston. JD's now hitting 305, 17 homers, 55 ribbies on the year, scored 18 or more fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. So I think JD's in a great spot. His whole career, he's crushed lefties. He gets Cole Irvin tonight. I love JD at 5,500. Anybody else in the 5,000 range? Not really. But Soto's going up against Kershaw. Maybe Ramon Laureano against Gary Richards, but it's righty on righty. Mike Yaz gets Faria. I mean, Yaz is waking up. Maybe, yeah, possibly Yaz, 311 ISO. But that's it. To me, it's all about Ohtani, and I like JD. Mid-range, I think, is where it's at. Joey Gallo, I played Gallo last night. He finally had a game without a home run. Of course, that's tonight I play him. But he's back in a good spot tonight against Marco. Joey Gallo can hit lefties, so don't worry about the lefty-on-lefty matchup. He's got 409 Wnba to shoot, 297 ISO against lefties. I think that and Gonzalez actually has been hit by lefties harder in his career than righties. Lifetime, Gallo is 6 for 18, 2 homers, 7 RBIs lifetime against Marco. So Joey Gallo, I think, may end up in one of my main lineups at $4,300. Cedric Mullins, this kid just had a huge year. Most people don't even know who the hell the kid is. Even though Cobb's having a good season, I have no problem playing Mullins. Mullins raking from that leadoff spot, hitting 360 over the last month, 8 homers over the last month, 16 ribbies, hitting right. He's crushing righties, 242 ISO, 407 Wnba. Cedric Mullins is definitely in play at that mid-price range. Mitch Haniger tonight is in play against Jordan Lyles for Seattle. It's a good spot. Hit a bomb tonight. Michael Brantley hitting 400 over the last 30 days. He's in a good spot against Eli Morgan. Gets the platoon advantage. So that's like your mid-price guys. Then they probably be like Mitch Haniger, the way Jordan Lyles just cannot pitch to righties. Cheaper. Now we got Cody Bellinger. I don't know what to do with Bellinger. He's now down to 3.7. But the thing is, Bellinger just isn't. We thought he was waking up last week when he had those back-to-back games with home runs, but I mean, you want to play Bellinger when he's batting cleanup at 3-7 against Pedro Espino with the platoon advantage. Man, I don't know. He's only hitting 170 over the last week, 210 over the last month. So he definitely hit a bomb. Yeah, he's a good spot against Espino to hit one, but I don't know. I like this kid Jake Fraley for Seattle down there. He's hit 350 over the last week. He had a couple home runs. And he's definitely hitting righties all season. 380 ISO, 491 Wnba, which are really good numbers for a kid like Fraley on the season long. So Jake Fraley, to me, is in play at 3-7. He's not going to be high. 3-1. He's not going to be high owned, but really good spot against Jordan Lyles. No problem. I'd have no problem playing Jake Fraley in cash tonight if I need to get down that low. And then you got a punt play. I think one of my favorite punt plays tonight is going to be Miles Straw if he makes a starting lineup for Houston. Straw gives you a piece of that Houston offense, a cheap piece. Said Eli Moore's giving up a 9.37 ERA. Straw over the last 10 games got 361 batting average. He's got a home run. He's got 8 walks, 7 runs scored, 4 ribbies, 3 steals, and the kid doesn't strike out. So I think Miles Straw at $2,900 is a really good spot. Straw and Jake Fraley of Seattle. 2 nice cheap spots in the outfield. Is Hill Ramirez a punt option tonight? If Ramirez is batting I see he's projected to be batting down to 6 now. So probably not against Odorizzi as a righty. There's probably other ways you can go. If you're gonna on 2-8, just use like Miles Straw or Jake Fraley. Probably Miles Straw would be the way to go. That's where I would go in the outfield instead of Harold Ramirez. I think Rosario might be in a sneaky spot tonight. Franmil Reyes. Franmil Reyes. Franmil Reyes should be batting cleanup tight against Odorizzi. That's a sneaky spot, 3-4. But I still like this Miles Straw kid. But Reyes would be the one Indian I would use beside J-Ram against Odorizzi tonight. I was going to use anybody. All right. I think that's pretty much it for the outfield. I haven't done a core yet. Of course, it's early, and I still have to look at the 4 o'clock games. Stacks I like, though. Of course, the cores games I like. I do like the Mariners tonight. I like the Mariners as a sneaky stack. If you're going to do a sneaky stack against Jordan Lyles, stack up like Mitch Haniger, Ty France, Luis Torrens, Dylan Moore, this Fraley kid. Also, I got a feeling if Alex Cobb's going to be popular tonight, if you're running GPPs, run a GPP with Baltimore then. Urias, Trey Mancini, Ryan Mountcastle, Maikel Franco. That's a sneaky stack there, especially against a high-owned Alex Cobb. This is a type of night tonight where you may end up having some pitchers that are not great elite pitchers, high-owned. Same thing with Marco. If Marco's going to end up being like 40-50% owned, then run a bunch of Texas power righties tonight if you're multi-entering. Run guys like Adolis Garcia, Eli White, Nicky Solak, like I said. Nate Lowe's a lefty, but still, I mean, we know Joey Gallo can hit Gonzalez. So that might be a way to go. So run head stacks against these popular pitchers that have a chance of getting blown up. And Cobb and Marco can definitely get blown up tonight. And so can Odorizzi. So run a Cleveland stack, especially lefties against Odorizzi. Like this kid Bobby Bradley, J-Ram, Bradley Zimmer, guys like that. Yep. And I agree. Who are the catchers again? Right, it's Kershaw for 1. Right now, projections are showing Marco for Seattle. I'm probably leaning Cobb, but it's either going to be Marco, Cobb, or Odorizzi as your SB2. I'd probably rank him. Probably Cobb because I do like I don't know, either Cobb and Gonzalez are right neck to neck. Right now, probably leaning Cobb, but the more I look at it, depends. We'll see what the Texas line looks like when it comes out. But I'm probably going to go on Cobb right now, especially when he's got such a high, I think what's his spread on Cobb? -206. He's -206. Kershaw's -242. They're the 2 highest favorites. And then you got Marco is a -142. So that may be the tiebreaker, is the big spread for Cobb tonight. Okay, so that is It actually Prize Picks. I didn't put Prize Picks in my write up yet. Let me just look really quick and see if there's anything that's popping up for Prize Picks for tonight's. Let me see for Kiki's only 0.5 runs RBIs. I'll probably take a Kiki over on that. This is on runs RBIs. I don't see a lot yet. They have Schwarber. I think Schwarber got hurt last. I didn't actually get an update on Schwarber. Maybe Rafael Devers over 0.5 runs RBIs, total bases. I need to look at total bases more because everybody's 1.5. So right now I'll be looking at just probably just the Devers over and Kiki over 0.5 runs RBIs. I'll have it up in my article once I really get a good look at Prize Picks. I don't want to give you a number and then turn around and not like it. So check out my top plays, which will be later on in the day. All right, so if you guys have any questions for MLB, throw them out there. I'll have a 4 o'clock article for the 4 p.m. game. I'll also have the top plays out for this slate out not too long from now. I'm going to toss over to my man Walter for WNBA for that 2-gamer that starts in like an hour and 15 minutes. And that's it. I'm on to Walter. Thanks, guys.
All right. What's up, guys? Thank you, Pete. Good information as always, grinding away on the MLB. He's very sharp doing this day in and day out during college football and college basketball. I might have to let him be the host. So good, so mesmerizing when he speaks. Anyways, WNBA, yes, it's a 3-game slate on FanDuel, 2-gamer on DraftKings. There's a showdown on DraftKings as well, which I will cover a bit here. There will be a separate article for that. It's because that one is at 7 p.m. Pacific, while the other 2 games are at 10 a.m. So I'm glad they did that because the all-day slate's wild fun. That's a little bit too far apart. So first game I'm going to talk about here, Connecticut Sun versus Indiana Fever. They're minus 1,400, so they're 15-point favorites against the Fever. We know the Fever are garbage, one of the worst teams in the league, the worst by far, 1-15 record. Total 156, so the lower total of the 2, but I'm not really worried about that on a 2-gamer. Still plenty of points and opportunities to go around statistics-wise for the Sun. We saw in the last game when they played the Fever, there was 3 or 4 players who all made value for them. Right now, ownership-wise, Jonquel Jones is the highest owned player projected, which is obvious, 10.8K. I used to think that 11.5 was the max price on DraftKings, but we're seeing players at 12 and 12.5, which we saw yesterday with Stewie. So 10.8 is a discount for Jonk. She came back, from Eurobasket, tore it up over there. Her first 2 games, first against the Mystics, she dropped almost 60. She was in a little bit of foul trouble against the Fever there, and it wasn't a blowout, surprisingly, but she had 35 fantasy points, 19, 4, and 4. I would expect her to play a lot better today. It's funny, is 35 fantasy points is good for most players, and it's like, oh, damn, she busted. So expect her to hit probably 50 again tonight or this morning, and definitely I think it'll be more of a blowout. They only won by 6 last time. They weren't getting the whistle in their favor, and I just expect big things from Jonk. So that's chalk you want to eat. I wrote in the article there that's up this morning. We got away with fading Breanna Stewart last night at that 12-4 price tag, and she was almost 80% on a 3-gamer. There was plenty of other options to pay up for, which justifies the leverage and the fading of her, and it worked out. She only scored 29. On a 2-gamer, there's not enough options outside of Jonk Jones and Tina Charles that can match her, maybe Bonner, but there's not enough. So you have to eat that chalk. So I'm all in on her. The big question for me, too, is do I want to play Brianna Jones next to Tina Charles and Jonk Jones as my 3rd pay up and then go value guard, or do I want to pay for Benijah Laney, who, of course, I really like, and then play a secondary value forward? There's not a ton of value forwards out there outside of Betty Hattar, who we'll talk about in a second. So I am leaning towards the Brianna Jones build myself. Brianna Jones, one of the most improved players. She's having a career year. She's made her first All-Star game. There's even chatter about her being a fringe MVP candidate. You see, she really took over that game against the Fever. She almost a career high 47 fantasy points, 34 and 7 stat line. She was also in foul trouble, but she got through it. For somebody who really doesn't take threes, that's an impressive stat line. So at 9.5K, I am going to be pairing up Jonk with Brianna Jones. I think both of them are just going to be too much for the Fever. Fever's defense is obviously putrid. Their coaching staff is horrific, one of the worst coaching staffs in the league. They've clearly quit, and Brianna should really own them on the glass and score with ease down low. So I'm running with her. You can also look at, Jasmine Thomas or Dwana Bonner as GPP, pivots off of Brianna Jones or a chalkier Jonk. Like if you're running multiple lineups and you want to have just, the unthinkable happens. Jonk, 2 early fouls. She gets hurt, turns into a blowout at halftime. She doesn't play a lot. So you protect yourself if you're doing multiple lineups. So, running Dwana Bonner, who projects to be like 7% today, owned wise is a good idea. The only other son I'm looking for on my main lineup is perhaps to Natisha Heidemann. She's 5.3K. She's looking at roughly 22 minutes, which will be fine for that price tag. We're really looking for 3x on your cash games and single entry. I do have her projected myself for right around 19.5 fantasy points. So if she gets that, we're feeling pretty good. She takes a good number of threes. The Fever's defense on the perimeter is a bit better than their interior, believe it or not. So there, could be some issues there. But Heidemann, she's not afraid to pull the trigger when she's on the floor. So I don't mind running 3 Sun in your main lineup if it comes down to it. With the Fever, the injury situation we're waiting on is Jessica Breland. She's questionable. She did miss last game with the knee injury. She hasn't practiced, so there's a good chance she doesn't play. We're looking at my girl Betty Hattar, the unicorn, the 6'10", Euro transplant. She can hit the 3. She can rebound. She's actually really good on defense. She gave Jonk Jones a lot of trouble. And she gave Tina Charles trouble in the past as well. So her defense is pretty solid. She is a bit of a fouler as well because she ends up having to guard the other team's best player down low. But we did see her play 18 minutes against the Sun. She busted, of course, because of the foul trouble. But if we're going to get 20 minutes out of her and she draws a start again, if Breland's out, I mean, you really got to play her at 4-1. You don't have a lot of, choice there in the matter with the lack of value options on the slate. So you got to roll Hattar. I also kind of like Jontel Lavender. She doesn't have much upside, but we see she played 30 minutes last game. The game before that, 26. So with the injuries that have happened and McCowan, kind of being in the doghouse a bit, it seems, Lavender's playing those additional minutes. She's not doing a lot with them. She's been under 20 fantasy points in, 6 straight. But she's hovering right around 18-20. She's only 5'8", so I certainly don't mind her. If you had the money for her, 500 more than Heidemann, even though they play different positions, and you can make that work with your build, I'm fine with Lavender. Other kind of alt options, Kelsey Mitchell, a high-volume guard. Danielle Robinson is playing a lot of minutes at the point, and then Tiffany Mitchell, a very streaky shooter. But you're certainly not going to want to play many Fever players. It's really just Betty Hattar. Looking at team averages, the Fever are giving up the most points in the league at 87.9, and they're averaging a league low 74.2, going against the Connecticut defense that's allowing the least amount of points at 74.4. So yeah, you don't really want to be targeting the Fever too heavy here. Nice thing about it is 3 of the 4 teams on the slate are in the top 4 for points allowed. I just mentioned the Fever are number 1. The New York Liberty are 3rd at 85.7 points allowed, and then the Washington Mystics are 4th at 83.9 points allowed. So not a ton of defense here outside of the Sun. Next game here, Washington Mystics versus Liberty. It's -1.5 on the Liberty side. If you're betting, I don't mind the Mystics today. It's 165.5 total. The Mystics have been running with 6-7 players at best. They did cut a ton of players recently to avoid having to pay them for the rest of the year. They did re-sign Megan Gustafson to a 7-day deal. And then former player Shatori Walker-Kimbrough and Natasha Cloud is now upgraded to highly probable instead of questionable because she practiced yesterday. So now we're looking at the Mystics potentially playing 9 players. Mystic stacks have been popular. Their prices are all high because of the 6-lady rotation. So Teresa Plaisance at 9-1. I'm not going to be using her. Atkins at 9-7. Leilani Mitchell at 8K. These prices are just way too high to really justify for me, especially if Cloud plays. Now, if Cloud is, out, she has a setback, then you can certainly look back to an Atkins or Plaisance for GPPs to be a little bit different. Erica McCall is still out for them. EDD is still out, and then MHA is listed as highly questionable. hasn't been practicing. Don't expect to see her. The only Mystics player that you really should be looking at for your main lineup, obviously, is Tina Charles, who's 11.5, high price. But again, it's another one of those. If you fade her, you really don't have anywhere else to turn. There's not another forward on the slate outside of Junk that can really match her. Perhaps Brianna Jones, we just talked about. But Charles has legit 70-point upside here. She's got a few things going for her. Revenge narrative, which in the WNBA, the revenge narrative has paid off a lot. You guys can laugh about that or not believe it, but it really has, against her former team. And then she has the best DVP in the league right here, facing off against that Liberty front court. We know time and time again, front court players or anybody, regardless, they're a guard that rebounds a lot. If they're a strong rebounder, shot blocker, they're going to dice up and dominate this New York Liberty squad. So Charles, I'm all in on. As far as New York Liberty goes, you have several ways you can go here. Benai Laney is 9.3, like we mentioned. She's rock solid for 30. You could play her over Brianna Jones and then throw another value forward out there like a Megan Gustafson for the Mystics if it came down to it. But I think I'm looking at Sammy Whitcomb, and it's really going to be the first time all season I've really looked at using her. Since leaving the Storm, her offense has increased. Her defense has improved. She's, knocking down threes at an extremely high clip. She's taken 101 triples so far this year. She's making almost 46%. So that's really impressive, the type of volume that she's getting. And she's also increased her steals per game, 1.2. Turnovers are under 2. Her assists are up at almost 3 a game, and she's almost got 6 rebounds per game. So everything is up for her. With Seattle, she was a role player, always a good 3-point shooter. But with New York, she has that opportunity to take more volume. The offense is much more high octane. They encourage you to take threes in transition. So this is really working out for her. So at 8.4, while it pains me that price, I think I would probably use her over Laney and certainly over Sabrina Ionescu, who's only 8.3, and that looks like a great price for her on the the outside. But she is on a bit of a minutes cap, roughly stuck between 25 to 30. If things get dicey and it's not a close game, then they'll just sit her for the rest of the game pretty much. She has that, tendonitis that keeps flaring up on her. They're trying to get to that Olympic break, which is a month, to give her that time to heal up. So don't expect her to play more than 30 minutes, whether it's close or not, with the potential for obviously less. Her rebounding and assist numbers are doing just fine, but her shots are obviously off. You can tell the injury is making her suffer. 2 of her last 3 games, she's been under 17 fantasy points, which is disgusting, which has caused the price decrease. She does have a 31 wedged in there against Atlanta, but don't be fooled. The 8.3, while it looks sexy, it's just feels like maybe a little bit of a trap. I'd just rather run Whitcomb. Injury-wise for them, Natasha Howard is still out, probably until after the Olympic break. Rebecca Allen is questionable. She hasn't been practicing. The team did re-sign Rashonda Gray to a rest-of-season contract, so that makes me think that Allen's probably not ready to go yet. Gray's unfortunately not in the player pool because it happened yesterday. But keep that in mind. Gray will probably take 10 to 15 minutes away from the team. Pull away from Liana Odom, Kylie Shook, Anya Nwede. They did drop Kaya Stokes, who's now with Las Vegas, so that maybe cancels out. But Stokes is only playing about 5 minutes, so just keep that in mind if you plan on using any of these fringe Liberty players outside of Laney or Whitcomb. With that being said, Kylie Shook at 7.5 is probably priced out. I don't mind Anya Nwede. It's at 6.7, who's the front runner for Rookie of the Year. She's had games of 30 to 40 fantasy points. She's kind of settled in around a 18, 19 fantasy point scorer. So at 6.7, I definitely don't hate it as a last player in. And then Jasmine Jones at 6.1 has a lot of upside, especially if this game turns into a blowout and she sees 20 plus minutes. She's not afraid to take a bunch of shots either. And she's actually a pretty solid rebounder for a guard her size. So for that, it's Tina Charles, as I mentioned, and then Sammy Whitcomb, and then maybe a little bit of Laney or Anya Nwede. As far as cores go for the DraftKings slate, my core it's pretty jockey and easy. Tina Charles, Junk Jones, and Betty Hattar. On the FanDuel side of things, Jonquel Jones, Tina Charles, and Sammy Whitcomb. They are rocking the 3-game slate over there for the Phoenix game versus Minnesota, which I mentioned. I'll have showdown information for that in my article later on. We are going to be doing a couple more shows, or I plan to have some shows for WNBA as we head into the Olympic break here. Pete mentioned there's going to be some TBT stuff definitely going on. DK hasn't answered if they're going to have that just yet, but certainly in the works. We're now under 150 days away from college basketball. was like 8 weeks from college football. So lots of stuff going on there for the niche sport community. Real quick, let me pull up the showdown. Sorry, the Minnesota and Phoenix showdown, just to give you guys a little bit of a taste of that one. Pricing wise is pretty tough on this one. Everybody's priced up to the point where it'll make sense, especially on DraftKings, to punt one of your utility spots. I've been seeing a lot of top 5 scores on Showdown lately where they just threw one spot away in order to get yourself a high-powered captain. In the past, you run a captain like you're looking at it here, Kayla McBride at 11.1 or Alicia Clarendon at 9.6, and that gets you a few, extra studs in your utility. Problem is when Sylvia Fowles or Brittany Griner and Nafisha Collier drop a real 50 in that captain spot that thus becomes 70 or 80, you're in a lot of trouble. So I would recommend on this one as your captain, either going Griner, Collier, Fowles up top. They're all over 15K. Or Diana Taurasi at 12.9 who's back. And then the punt spot to throw it away, Sophie Cunningham at 4.5. She does play roughly, 15 minutes a game. Or Kia Vaughn at 6.3. Oh, sorry, those are captain prices. Kia Vaughn at 4.2 or Sophie Cunningham at 3K. So those are the ones where you're hoping for 5 to 10 fantasy points from. You roll Fowles with that captain slot. She drops to 70, 80 there in captain, and you're feeling pretty good. Kayla McBride at 7.4 is probably the sneak of that showdown slate. She is coming off a 37 fantasy point game. I don't think people are going to believe it, though. They signed her to a max deal in the offseason, to be in a more free-flowing offense. She struggled with her shot a lot. It seems maybe she found it last game, so it'll be interesting to see if that continues. They didn't pay her that max money to not shoot the ball. She is averaging 12 shots per game, 7 of which are three-pointers. So Kayla McBride, definitely somebody that I'm going to be looking at heavily on this one. And then prize picks, my favorite prize picks, I have Benijah Laney over 30.5 fantasy points. She's pretty much a 32, 33 scorer. Tina Charles over 41. That might seem pretty aggressive. She hasn't really been under 45 in weeks. And then Brianna Jones over 30 fantasy points, who, like I said, she's kind of just in that MVP race now, feeling pretty good. For the showdown slate, or the later game, I should say, my favorite would be Diana Taurasi over 29.5 fantasy points. I think she'll have a nice bounce back. And then Kayla McBride, who I just harped on, over 24. She's more of a scorer, not so much, putting up other statistics. So her single points are 13.5. That one I would probably hit if you're only going to hit one of them. In a mixed sports one or whatever, over 13.5 single points for Kayla McBride would make a ton of sense because she's mostly going to be shooting. With that being said, that's pretty much all I have. We're right about an hour away from the slate. I'll be hanging out in the Discord. I'll post, any injury or starters when it drops. The nice thing about this early slate here is both games start at the same time, so we'll have all the lineup news that we need up front and at the time of. So appreciate it, guys. Also, Aussie, I am going to have an Aussie article out for the 3-game slate later. I've been kind of, I'm still playing that, but I haven't been able to post any content for it. It's going well, though. Aussie Edge is pretty wide. I see Chris and a few others playing it. So definitely check that out when we post it later. Appreciate it, guys. Best of luck, and see you later.
Wnba